I don't think the AI automation space is over like a bunch of people are claiming out there, but for 2026 and beyond, it'll probably get much harder. What I'm building here is a chart for product adoption. If you've never seen this before, basically up until this point, I believe it's the innovators. Then around 13.5%, you have the early adopters. Then around 34% are the early majority. We then have the late majority, and then the rest are the skeptics that just joined really after a while and are around like 16%. But just so you don't have to look at my ugly drawing, let's use this chart right here. Well, I believe that the phase for AI automation is already around this section right here. I think there's a huge opportunity that is mostly still around this area, but I'll talk about that in just a bit. If you've been around for a while, you know that in less than a year ago, you could sell AI automations pretty easily. Any simple automation that would hook up to WhatsApp and have an AI agent work on anything was something pretty disruptive. So whenever you'd call a company, even one from your city, and tell them, hey, you can use this workflow, hook it up to a WhatsApp, have it hooked up to an AI agent, and then fire 3 members of your staff, people would be pretty surprised and willing to pay to see if that is actually possible. And since there wasn't a lot of people doing it, you could raise the price to whatever you want. But then around March of this year, 2025, NAN workflows became a product on their own. And that's where I think NAN really took off, because you had a much easier way to build AI agents with NAN alongside it being open source and having community nodes so that, well, you have the flexibility to build a lot more than in other providers. But eventually we got to a downfall. And really anyone selling AI automations might have noticed this, since AI automations doesn't really surprise companies anymore. And now you're even going to face some barriers while trying to convince the company that your solution actually works. Since during this period, a lot of poorly configured, bad automations was offered to these companies. So I believe the AI hype is far from over, but more and more you'll actually have to deliver on your promise to stay ahead. And this is both for AI automations as well as for SaaS builds. Because 1 year ago, you could build an AI automation or have a website that after 10 users, it would just simply break. But people were much more forgiving as, one, they didn't really understand what was going on. And second, they didn't really have anything else to compare it with. But because of a lot of changes, I believe that in 2026, the bar for AI automation agencies will be much higher. And notice that I'm not talking about scams here, because obviously there will be a lot of people offering these really shitty AI automations for the rest of our lives. They'll probably make some money at first and then show that money online to everyone, proving that they're successful. Then they'll refund that money after some weeks, but then make a lot of money selling courses on how you can replicate exactly what they did. Now, if they sell you courses on how to sell things, then, I mean, that might be good. The problem is that most of them is going to sell you how to build things and build like the same shitty automation that they built, at which then it actually becomes an even bigger scam. So if you want to learn how to actually build something, be careful with people showing off their Bugatti or whatever car and house they rented for the weekend. Now, after understanding that you're right here while building an AI automation agency, and you still want to build an AI automation agency for 2026, it's still a good idea because you're still in the early majority. But then you need to differentiate yourself. And I mean, the first basic way to get ahead is just understanding about infrastructure. I mean, that's my opinion, but really understanding scalability is something that, while talking to most AI automation agency owners, I haven't seen them really understanding that. They just directly go to NAN for any solution. And that really isn't viable. That isn't scalable at all. Also, nor is the decision to always go with Python, always implementing it with code, a good decision, since some companies really like the no-code approach of them just having that workflow for them to track and change to whatever they'd like it to be. But I mean, around like 70% of the AI automations I see could just use Python. It would be much faster, much better, much more scalable. And yeah, it's really not hard to do that nowadays. You don't even need to necessarily know how to code. For most automations, just by understanding the concept and feeding that over to Claude Code, Cursor, Windsurf, or whatever, can get you the entire automation built, all without really coding. And by the way, I was not sponsored to do this, but this is the best book I've read about web scalability for startup engineers. Now that I think of it, I think the text might be in reverse, but yeah, I'll leave the link down below in the description. And honestly, I should look up the affiliate thing from Amazon. Never used that. But yeah, just by understanding this book, you're ahead of like 90% of these guys creating AI agencies. Now, what I mentioned earlier that for 2026, we're right here as early adopters, and there's a huge space for actually joining in on the gold rush. And it is to simply buy my course for $15,000. I'm kidding, I don't have a course yet. But yeah, I just appreciate if you leave a like down below. But jokes aside, I really think that the gold rush for AI in 2026 is how it still offers an entrance to many different niches. Digital marketing, for example, was a highly saturated topic. You just had to be crazy to start a channel about SEO in 2023. But that's exactly what Julian Goldie SEO did. If you go to his oldest video, you'll see that, well, naturally, like any new YouTuber, like 6 years ago, he had this amount of views, which probably is because a lot of his new viewers went back there and looked at that video. Also because like these videos are really old and they might have picked up on the search algorithm. If you scroll down, well, you'll see a lot of more videos about SEO, but it is extremely hard to get inside of the digital marketing space. He wasn't bothered at all by that and just kept on posting more and more videos. Now, I have an extension from vidIQ that allows me to see the outlier score for each video, and it's this label right here. Can you see it? Like 0.2x, 0.1x, and it basically tells me that how well this video performed with the overall views of that channel. As you can see, like there weren't much well-performing videos before. Soon enough, when he talked about AI and introducing AI to SEO, this right here happened, like the first blue icon with 15,000 views. Then soon enough, he talked about that again, ChatGPT SEO strategy, how I increased SEO traffic by 50% with ChatGPT, 101,000 views. Because what happens is basically there was the SEO market, which is very difficult to get into, but he has an approach with AI that correlates with SEO, and he acts right here in between. I believe that in 2026, people were really focused on this right here. So just AI and how AI does this and that, and not really worried about how AI would really contribute in a specific niche. But now in 2026, I believe we'll be seeing a lot more people trying to blend AI with what I said, like SEO or with finance, for example. And then when we talk about each niche, then we have one chart like this for each different niche. Since finance has a really high CPM, then I'd argue that people have already started implementing this blend with finance and AI, and then show your expertise with AI inside of finance. Then I believe like finance is around here somewhere. Content production with AI is another really big topic, which I also think that is already here in the early majority. You have a lot of content creators building things about this topic, but there's also sub niches. So instead of talking about marketing, you can create about content creation. Instead of talking about content creation for YouTube. Okay, it's still generic. Content creation for packaging using AI. That is still probably here in the early adopters. So how could you create an entire thumbnail using AI? How could you create the right title? Because all this, yes, it has been created before, but it's all kind of crappy. Because at least what I have noticed is that people already from that area, so YouTube has tried to build things with AI. So they don't have the right expertise to build that specific tool. And so the tool is kind of crappy because of that. Like they really understand everything they need to feed the AI to have a perfect system prompt, to understand the whole context, to build whatever they actually feel that works for building a title, for example, for building it with the right keywords. But they lack product creation. They don't know that they should use ShadCN for components. And then it ends up having a poorly usable interface, or even hooking up payments with Stripe and everything. So that eventually becomes a problem. And I talked about Julian Goldie, which is a content creator, but if you just want to create your app and monetize off of it, there's a lot of examples that AI just really disrupted that specific space. And I believe that in 2025, the same way that you can build content for these specific AI niches, you can also build tools for these niches. A big example that I could think of from the top of my head right now are video editing softwares like Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, and I don't know if anyone uses it, but Final Cut. These three were the only ones that you could really reliably think of for the past like decade. And now suddenly you have Descript, which introduced a lot of different ways that you can edit videos. You have Opus Clip that seamlessly creates clips of an entire podcast, for example. Riverside, along with, just a bunch of other AI editing software. And I mean, these softwares are obviously built by a lot of people. If I were to find some solopreneurs SaaS that you can actually build just to prove you that in 2026 it's still an opportunity, well, I'd say that this live stream right here from Ed Lawrence, which is a pretty solid content creator that teach me a lot about creating content on YouTube. In this live, he was teaching how to build AI apps for YouTube. And I was really watching this as someone that was curious to see someone that has no prior experience with coding create an entire app, just to see what was he doing wrong and how I could actually provide some instructions inside of my own channel so that other people with the same problems could be on the right track. But soon enough, when he was kind of done building the app, I noticed that a lot of people was asking him to share the app with them. Like this person right here, Ed Lawrence, are you sharing your thumbnail app with us too? Now let's pause for a second and understand his app. The only thing this app was actually doing is having an input up here, right here where you would place your title, click on Analyze Title, and get an analysis as well as some suggestions. As a developer, yes, I understand that this is just a GPT wrapper. People could just take the exact system prompt that he showed us inside of the live stream, feed it over to ChatGPT, place their title, and have the suggestion in there. But what I believe we as builders have to understand is that people aren't in the same bubble as us. A quote I always like to remember is that there's a lot of people in the world with a lot of money. For them, it's actually valuable to pay $10 to have a subscription for a website that feeds them title suggestions without them having to always come up with a system prompt inside of ChatGPT. So of course that I know that when you build something, you want people to use it and like what you created, make it easy and have that kind of wow reaction to what you built. But let's try to incrementally get to that point and really launch it as fast as possible. As soon as it's usable, as soon as it gives the user the core value, let's just launch it already. And maybe you might be thinking, okay, but that example is bad because, well, he was just showing it. He didn't really make some money off of that. Well, I'd argue that he did make some money off of this since he used it as a lead magnet down here. And this probably got him a lot of qualified leads. But if that isn't enough, let's take a look at Web Dev Cody. This guy is my favorite content creator of all time. And at some point, he launched a very simple app. This app, let me show you the app before anything. This is the app. You can't build a simpler app than this. Basically, you can log in. As soon as you log in, you have like 1 credit to test it out. And then you just click on generate, come over here, describe, like this is basically the prompt that you'll place in, a angry lion. Select a predefined color like red. I'll leave this model selected since it's just 1 credit. And then let's select, I don't know, like pop art. I'll hit generate icon, wait for a bit, and there it is. Pretty simple. This obviously has some value. So eventually he made this video telling us how much he made from this app in, I think it was about like 8 months or so. He went through the app and then showed us his Stripe dashboard, which had a gross volume of 8,595. The cut from Stripe took it down to 7,812. And yeah, there are the expenses to actually generate the image and everything, but I'll leave it up for you guys to watch it inside of his channel. This link will be in the description of the video as well. The point is, you can absolutely make an entire app just like this one in a single day, honestly, using Cloud Code, for example. And if you're skeptical about him being a YouTuber and that being the reason why it got so many traffic, well, let's take a look at SimilarWeb and see how much of the visits in the website come from directly from YouTube or actually like direct. This direct right here is when people just type in the domain of the website, which is likely people from his channel that just saw the link and typed it in. But organically are all the visits that came from Google. If I open an anonymous tab and type in AI icon generator, hit enter, you'll see that the second option is his website. And honestly, I don't know if this chart is correct, but the number of visits seems to be growing on his website. And his comment about this is the funniest thing.
I don't even know how this is making money because you can literally go to Dolly and like try to generate icons yourself. But People are buying credits and I'm making money off of that. So let's go to
So yeah, I still think there's a lot of space for AI apps and AI automations. Maybe the difference now is that, well, in 2025, we are still using like 80% for distribution and then 20% to build it. And honestly, if it were like 2021, I would even agree with this because it like building the app is just part of the problem. Distributing it is a massive task. But the problem is that because of vibe coding, the quality of this 20% has gone down a lot. So probably if in 2025 people were searching for how to sell AI agents, how to sell automations and everything, now for 2026 they might be a bit more worried with the quality of what they're selling and might lean towards actually learning how to build those systems efficiently and to scale. And personally, my niching down for 2026 is exactly right here. I want to be known as the guy that helps people build and ship products using AI fast yet reliable. Also because, well, it's my comfort zone. I've been building things long before AI was a thing. It would probably get me more money if I'd sell this part right here. So make money with AI, make money building things with Cloud Code. But there's a massive audience that doesn't get this part. And I feel like this needs to be taught before we actually get to distributing these systems. So if you want to become a beast and use AI to build things fast, subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching. Remember to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then.